Yo, what's good, guys? I'm Fire here, back with another video, and today we're going to be hopping into another Madden 23 offensive scheme. Today I'm going to be showing you guys my Trey Y flex scheme that I like for this year. I did post a gameplay running this a little bit a couple days ago. It was one of my defensive gameplays. You guys can check it out. I was using the Packers, and I definitely was able to cook with this scheme. It's pretty effective, and it's one of the most basic but simple yet effective formations in the game. So we're going to be in the Cincinnati Bengals offensive playbook. That's the playbook I'm choosing. It's in a ton of playbooks, though. You can use Saints, you can use Dolphins, 49ers, Chiefs, Broncos, Chargers, Panthers, Jets. It's in like a ton of playbooks, but I like the Bengals one the best. It has a lot of these unique plays. Take a look at these plays in the middle. This empty vertical play, that's a pretty unique play. It's not in a lot of these other Trey Y flexes. Things like wide receiver cross on the right. You have some nice RPOs. I love that SE corner play on the right as well. Now, we're not going to go over every single play, but I will go over the ones that I like the most. And let's jump into our audibles. Now, I like SE corner, inside zone, dagger, and PA crossers. Some of the other plays we'll run will be this empty vertical. I'll show that. I will show some of the RPOs, and then you have things like levels wide corner, and maybe like a post wide dig, which you can't see the play art right now, but that play can be decent if ran correctly. So I'm just going to come out in the empty vertical play to kind of start out. Now, I'll try and switch coverages as much as I can, but this play is actually pretty good. Now, a lot of times, and if you are a veteran, you kind of know what I'm talking about with this. When there's some of these weird plays where like the running back's motioning out, sometimes the spacing of the formation is actually different for that play rather than the whole rest of the formation. But with this formation, none of the receivers are shifting, which is really nice because there's no tell for the play. Now, of course, you have this motioned out, which kind of you don't want, so you can, of course, easily block him or put him on whatever route you want. Now, abilities-wise, Hot Route Master can definitely make this better, but we're just going to use whatever Joey B has, and he doesn't have Hot Route Master. We're just going to show some normal setups. Of course, you can get more creative, though. Now, it's always nice to have these wheel routes. They're really good for high balls. If it's cover 2, of course, you can just throw it over the top like that. Man coverage, if you get that one-on-one look, you can, of course, throw it up one-on-one. So I do like that route a lot. Now, spacing-wise for this play, you can do a couple of different things. One of my favorite concepts for this formation is to go with the slant, but actually motion him in. If you watched my last video on that tight offset tight end, make sure you check it out if you haven't. I like to use the motion out slant. But for this, we're going to kind of create the similar spacing, but we're actually just going to motion him in. So it will be delayed, but you see how you have a lot of space because of the motion. He's already offset a little bit, and then it takes him a couple seconds to get into his actual route. That is pretty much going to allow him to have a lot more space to work. The zones, especially if it's zone coverage, are going to be backed off, and if it's man coverage, he won't get pressed. So I love this route. You can snap him just whenever. Then you still have, of course, your other reads open. This is really good if he's running something like a DB Fire 2. Now, we know that he can adjust out of that, of course, but just base, you have this nice streak with Jamar Chase as well. Now, some of the things you can do on this right side, this is a concept that I'll go to a lot. Just a little quick wheel flat concept. That's something you can do. If you want, you can also go maybe curl flat, but I like this concept just because it spaces the field once more. And again, I would go with this slant. So you have Jamar Chase down the middle as well, which he would be open against cover 3, probably cover 2, just as acting as that seam streak that can split the zone. So I like this play a lot. Now, one thing that you want to do with this formation especially is incorporate some kind of motion. Now, motion, you can be a little bit limited depending on the play, but for example, if I wanted to go to that curl flat setup, maybe I do something like this, and then we put Higgins on a little curl. And again, you can obviously determine which setup is best depending on what kind of pressure you're facing, but here, nice little curl flat setup. If it's man coverage, the curl would get open as well. Those are actually pretty good against man coverage this year, I found out. So that's empty vertical. Again, you can get more creative than the ones I'm showing. Let me know if you want to see a gameplay on this. I can actually probably drop it tomorrow or next day. Yeah, let me know if you want a separate gameplay on this because I do enjoy this formation. Now, moving on, I'm just going to go to the inside zone. With this Trey Y flex, you want to stay balanced. That's an important part of the offense, staying balanced. not getting too pass happy, because might be my favorite run formation, honestly, in the game. It's really easy to run the ball out of it. Although we don't have great success there, it is generally pretty easy to run the ball out of. I did really well in the gameplay with running the rock. And overall, you can just go inside or outside. It really just allows you to read the defense. Again, I like to have patience with this, not really holding on to the right trigger, and then when you actually make your cut, you're able to do it, and we still hit 10 yards before contact. It's just showing the levels of it. So I like this run a lot. You can incorporate some things like motion if you want to motion some guy in. It can just create different looks, but overall, he's going to have to worry about the run. If he's running any kind of a dollar formation, you should be able to run on him until he is switching, simply said. So again, if he's in dollar, if he's in any weird formation, some guy was running quarters against me last time. That's another thing. Like even out of this formation, you could run bunch, or if you're running tight, who knows? Washington again has Trey White flex, same with Saints. So if you're running tight, I think Detroit as well. No, Detroit doesn't, but any of those other playbooks, you have Trey White flex in it, so you can literally just audible and run the ball. And again, you come out in bunch, he comes out in dollar. He can't switch formations, but you can't. So that's an adjustment that you want to take advantage of. If you want to really bluff the pass, what you can do is just motion this guy all the way over. Now that does kind of bring some of these guys inside, like that linebacker, but you know, that one of those guys could be his user. You still see we did have that hole, just a little bit too patient that time actually. But when he sees this motion, he's definitely thinking pass. He's already thinking about it with his user, and then you just run the football and you're able to kind of catch him off guard. Bad block by Hurst there, but you guys can see the potential with this play. So that's our inside zone. Moving on to our next pass, we're going to go to the SE corner, and I am a huge fan of this. We picked up some nice stuff in the gameplay with this that I did a couple days ago. This would be a go-to setup of mine. Just a little basic slant combo. Now this is very outside kind of based, so I can show some other stuff as well. And again, if you're ever in doubt with what to do on this side, you can always go with this wheel route concept. It's very good against cover 3. Against cover 2, it's a little bit iffy, but against cover 2, you can also snap throw. So I can just snap throw it like that, pick up a block, and you're out to the races. So off to the races rather. But yeah, so I wouldn't hate doing this kind of a combo either. Or again, you can just block him, and with A, you can. It doesn't hurt to ever throw this guy on a seam streak. If it's a man coverage, corner out might be a little bit better, but it doesn't hurt to just throw this out there, because if he's using this guy, he could fall asleep. So something like this would not even be a terrible setup. I know having 2 streaks might not be the best, but you can easily fit this in, aggressive catch, and that's over the top of a vert hook, by the way. No one else on that side of the field, short side of the field, and we're still able to complete it. So, and again, most people won't even have just regular vert hooks out there. But as far as this left side, what I like is this. I like this slant once again. I like having at least a clear out over here if it's cover 3, but you motion him in like so, and with Chase, you can throw him over the top. You have enough space to actually passing that up the field or to the sidelines, whichever you want, and both are really open. So you could do that. If you really wanted to get Boyd even closer, you could actually go with him on the motion slant, and that's going to have him further inside, although the user could be it could be easier for the user to lurk on him. So if you were doing that, I would probably want to have the wheel route in some capacity out there, so that the user really has to pick between either. I even don't hate this guy on a little streak, Joe Mixon. I don't hate him on a streak because spacing really still works. With that slant, you're not looking to throw it late. You really want to throw it almost on break, a couple steps after break, so the spacing still checks out. Now, some other things that you can go to are maybe you actually motion this guy all the way across. You can go with a little drag. Maybe you go Y on a little him, or maybe you even go slant. So this setup could actually work. Now, I would probably block RB for sure with this setup, because it's slower developing. You're going to need extra time, and he just ran like right in between everything and basically ruined the play. But this setup could be pretty good. You have a little zig with Y. You could even throw him on a hitch. If it's zone, you could throw him on a flat, whatever you want. You still have the slant, and then you have 2 corner routes over the top, because he could be playing a cover 3 cloud. He could be playing different depths on either side. And if it's man coverage, either of them could get open. So you really throw it to the guy that's not being usered. Another concept I kind of like is keeping it basic. If you wanted to do something like this, I actually like having this flat and just motion snapping him in, because it can really pull down those zones effectively. And what happens is he's almost open every time if you wanted to throw it, unless he's manned up. Even if he is manned up, you can really almost throw it every time. So I do like that. And again, just with this play, something like this is actually not a terrible setup. So if you just have a little slant, and then maybe even like a backside curl with Hurst, and I would snap him earlier, but that gives you a little late read. But you see how the curl is just holding those guys super far up. That can create different things. So if I wanted with Hurst, maybe we go, I'm just going rapid fire here kind of. Maybe we go him on the drag, and then we go, it's flat boy, something like this. This is just, again, you're mixing up all these different setups. It's going to catch him off guard. You can even throw that to Boyd, but you see how much more open Mixon is when that receiver's on the flat rather than the tight end. That's just opening it up. So SE corner is really good play. One last thing you can maybe do is something like this. Little just basic post slant. Now, this is going to take a while, so you need good blockers, good offensive linemen, but nice little basic slant post. Not as good as past years, but it could still work. And that's really going to do it. Now, let's hop into our next play, which is going to be Dagger. Dagger is not necessarily as good as it was in the past, but I still like it as almost a quick snap play. The crosser, of course, they need time to develop, so you kind of have to throw it earlier. You can't really wait and throw it on the sidelines, because if I did that, I'm probably going to get shedded by Hassan Reddick. We get shedded, and they just don't get open on the sidelines. So maybe with a clear out, pass it up, but a lot of things have to happen for it to work super well. So the way I like to run Dagger is quick snap base. So we have a couple of routes, a lot of routes that we can quick snap. Chase, Boyd, Mixon, and then Hurst. So we have really 4 routes. This guy is kind of a throwaway. He's almost useless. If you really wanted, we could just block him. So we could actually motion him over and just block him. But first read, Mixon out of the backfield. If his user's not over there, if he's not manned up, if it's not hard flat, you can feel free to throw that consistently. That's read number 1. Read number 2 is going to be Jamar Chase, just right in this window. Now, it gets a little bit tricky with that pass. Generally, a high ball could be used. And again, in this situation, there's not really going to be 3 guys in the middle of the field. But right there, that's your window. That's a lot more easier, because the first pass should have been picked. A lot easier, not a lot more easier. But so that's kind of your read number 2, Jamar Chase on this route. And once again, what I was saying about the defense is nobody's running 3 yellow zones in the middle of the field. One, at the most, it would be 1 yellow and their user. So at least one of those routes is generally going to be open. That's read number 2 with Jamar Chase. Read number 3 is going to be Tyler Boyd on a quick snap streak. He's going to kill cover 3, cover 2, cover 4 realistically. Also, these spread out formations are going to be better if he's running match coverage as well. So that's kind of your read number 4. And then your last one is going to be this drag, which against this coverage, it's better to throw earlier rather than later. But depending on the coverage, that could be flipped. But right here, nice window, and we get 9 yards. So take advantage of that. Use that to your advantage. But yeah, overall this play doesn't have a whole lot to it. As far as motion base, what you could do if you really wanted is I would maybe flat A and go with X on a little slant. I wouldn't hate this combination. You motion him in, and it looks like the slant and the cross are going to run in the same area, but he's actually so far off that it's not really the case. So I am a fan of that setup, actually. Again, these motion slant setups are pretty strong. You still have your same reads, so you really are looking for RB and B early if you can, but if not, you have X on the backside, especially if his user is taking away one of those. You know that the slant's going to be open. So that's Dagger for you. Next play is PA crossers. It's really a lot of the same with PA crossers. What you would really want to open up is this deep post with T. Higgins. So as far as taking advantage of that, something like this, and you're really just hoping that you have enough time. Now, Mixon blocks nobody, but I'm sure you guys know that what coverage the deep post gets open against. It can get open against cover 3, but it takes long time to develop, especially from all the way over here. So I'm going to try and do this. Yes. So with X, you can of course kind of split the middle of the field like that, but it's really only going to work if he's rushing 3 people and you get your protection to hold up, because if he rushes 4, you're just not gonna have enough time, especially unless you want to drop back 200 yards. You need a perfect arm strength QB. It really doesn't work. Now, sometimes you can throw it on break like that. I'm getting shedded, I kind of have to throw it there, but that's not a terrible idea as well. Now, I like Dagger more. It just seems better to me, but I don't hate this. And again, with some of the same concepts you could go to like this, really the only difference is having this guy on the deep post, so I don't hate this concept. Little slant, you can kind of throw him. Now again, be careful with the slot guy because when you motion him in that far, the vert hooks play a lot better. So once again, you want to be careful. I like this combo again. Just whenever you're in doubt of what to do with these guys, because right now I am. But you motion, snap him, try and snap him again as early as you can. But Jamar Chase open, and then if you have a late read, you can progress over to that deep post. That's going to be PA crossers. Let's hop into a new set of plays, though. I'm not sure which ones I'm going to go to. So I'll show maybe post dig. That play is not terrible. And then maybe one of the RPOs. Now, it doesn't have the RPO I like better, but it does still have a decent RPO. And with Dagger, let's throw in flood switch. Okay, so we have a couple plays. Now again, I run those first 5 plays a lot more frequently, but mixing in these every once or twice a game wouldn't hurt. I'm gonna go to a cover 3, but yeah, so this is gonna be the post wide dig play. It's decent. I like the play for Jamar Chase's route, especially. He gets some nice depth for sure. So with this, I would actually maybe even run it like just kind of like this, motion in Boyd, and kind of have him on the out route because you could throw it as a streak. But motioning in the out route, or actually just straight up motioning in a streak against zone coverage, would be a pretty good concept because you motion in Boyd and you can literally just throw him like this. And the zones, again, they're push up field, so it's wide open. Unless he's user lurking that, which again, it's a possibility, especially when he's in the middle of the field like that. So be careful. You don't have to use motion on every play, by the way. You can also just snap the ball. But take a look at Jamar Chase's route. He gets really good depth. And it's really a unique route. It's unlike any that are in this offense because generally he's on a crosser. And this is, of course, a lot deeper. It's a lot safer throw than the crosser. You don't have to highball it. You can just sit there. Next read, you can, of course, just check it down to T. Higgins. We pick up 8 yards there on a little check down. So having that out route to smoke screen combo is also not awful. And if it's heavy man coverage, this setup would be pretty decent. Just having him on a slant, and again, you can motion him in, go to the slant. You still have the out route. So you give yourself a lot of options with that play. But I don't run this too often. Those would be the only setups I would run, but they're not terrible. Now, next setup is going to be the RPO alert screen. This play, when you're running this play, you have to come out in it because you notice if you're audibling to it, the receivers shift, and even if it's a really good player, he should be able to tell because of how far inside they are. Spacing is clearly different. Now, if he's not paying attention, you can catch him off guard. If he doesn't really know what he's doing, you can. But I like this play especially against like a nickel over because there's 2 corners over here. You have 2 blockers, so you would hope that this play would work. Great block by Tyler Boyd. So again, wide receiver screens, you guys know they're just not that good in Madden. I'll try it again here, but this would be like the best formation. If it's dollar, it could work as well because that slot corner would be blitzing. But again, maybe waiting long, I don't know. Maybe it's the spacing of this play or this formation defensively, who knows. But I've got it to work situationally. I think I got it to work out of U-trips before, but other than that, you just have a basic inside zone. The inside zone's really going to work the same, and then you have Hurst on a little out route, which actually is pretty solid route for an RPO because if it's backed off, depending on how the run game has run defense plays, he could get open. So I don't hate that, but definitely not the best RPO. But, mix it in once game, you can catch him off guard, especially if there's a lot of space on that right side. Next play is going to be empty flood switch. This is going to be another one of these little motion out routes. I like this play stock. It's a good quick snap play. You have a zig, you have an out route. So if you're facing man coverage, I like this play stock. If you're getting super pressed and your receivers are not the best, bars, you can actually just motion in Boyd to step on his little zig and he would become not pressed and he gets a little bit more space to work. So I don't hate that concept. If you're facing zone, which you can go ahead and do, and you see I'm keeping the tight end route because he's going to be good against man coverage. This is good for long distances, 3rd and 15s, especially if you haven't shown it. You motion over Boyd on a little flat. He would work as well. So that's good for short yardage situations and kind of creating the same play look as a SE corner. You could even go with this. Now, this is going to create a lot of chaos in the middle of the field with the slant and the in route, but if you have enough time, they can separate. And this would be good, again, if he has his user being the only one in the middle of the field. So if there's only one guy in the middle of the field, it's him. He's going to have to pick one, and one, just throw it to the one that he doesn't defend. The motion out slant does a good job of delaying the read, because if you want to wait on the slant, then you potentially throwing into a flat zone. So that's flood switch. Not too much with that play. Again, you could motion over, do some other stuff, yada, yada, yada. Last play is levels wide corner. I'm not the biggest fan of this play. Spacing wise, I generally like the ones where you can streak. Actually, I generally like the ones with this play where you can streak B. So I would probably smart out Y or X, one of those guys. I would probably run it like this, X on a drag or X on a slant. And then again, I'm probably motion snapping him in like this. I like the streak with Chase. Same thing as empty vertical where he's on a little streak. You can throw it. And those streaks are super annoying, especially if you're running coverages that I run a lot, like those matches. These streaks are annoying, so you run it like this. I don't hate having this fly route out. And again, just run this play once or twice a game. Decent. You guys know levels wise sale. But that's going to do the video. If you guys did enjoy, make sure you drop a big thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel down below. Let me know if you want to see that gameplay, what else you want to see, and peace. I'm out of here.